My name is Andrea. I am studying Science of Information and I am in 5th semester. We will show you a presentation about the National Museum and we hope you like it. To arrive to the National Museum, we choose the faster route on Transmilenio. The route started at the station Banderas, located on Kennedy's Town. In it, we can find neighborhoods like Castilla, Kennedy, Corabastos, and Tintal. On Banderas, we choose the traditional bus route M51. It started on Americas, after Street 13, and finally take the 10th Street to get to the museum station. National Museum is located exactly on Avenue 7th, number 2866. As a kind of history context, we want to tell you that the museum was born because in Paris, on 1821, Francisco Antonio Sea was given the task of finding a place where art, nature, and commerce were exhibited. So, on July 4, from 1824, in General Francisco de Paula Santander, Vice President, the museum was enlarged to 2 rooms of the Botanic House, and the first collection were about zoology, mining, botany, history, science, and art. The National Museum's inauguration was on July 9 from 1948 and was opened to the public on May 2 in the same year. The museum had 3 floors, and each floor has different expositions. On the first floor, the Archaeological and Ethnographic Museum. On the second floor, the Historical Museum, and on the third floor, the Museum of Fine Arts. In 1994, it was approved the enlargement of the museum and the remodeling of the first floor. On the first floor to the museum, you can find the temporary expositions. Nowadays, there are garments, photographs, and objects about museum history to the centuries 19 and 20. The expositions are divided between 4 items. The first is called Desear Ser. There you can know the style of that period of the history. The second item is Trabajar para Tener. We can see the ways of work of the people in that era. The third is Tener para Ser. It represents the way which the houses of this period were organized and how it generated a modernization for the elites. And finally, the fourth is Ser o no Ser. There underline all media where the fashion ideal of this period was disseminated. On there refers to the lower or middle class and show how was their participation in the society. The museum shows some ancient maps from Colombia, some traditional objects of the 19th period like clock and record players. Here we can see the underwear that got dressed by the elite woman. Inside the museum also we can find permanent exhibitions that make reference to the history of Colombia. The culture, the most prominent facts, the most representative characters, the most important sculptures and other artifacts are shown because the purpose is that the public feels charmed with everything that it represents, because those exhibitions it's what represent us as citizens and as a culture of Colombia.
Here you can see some art objects, like woman's body sculpture, random artifacts, makeups, traditional objects of native tribes at the place where buried dead people. We can admire some the bones of community of people which had died, and also it represents the importance that were attributed to the people.
Another important thing that the museum shows to the spectator is some Colombian history. Here we can see a shirt of a woman who was present on the Bogotazo. The shirt has dry blood, and it represents the conflict that were uncontrolled because of the political and social differences.
Those are some shadows of a woman and a native man. It shows the common activities which make some person. For example, the native man is smoking a pipa. Also, we can see different ways that the body is seen.
Here we can find graphic art, draws, paints, and decorative art. Most of the objects represent important characters who had made history around the world. Graphic art used techniques like metal sheet, lithograph, xylography, engraved, and print. Between 500 pieces of collection, 30 are from Colombian artists from the 19th century. Draws has artists and scientifics like painters, sculptors, miniaturists, geographers, cartoonists, and architects. They used techniques like charcoal, pencil, ink, pastel, watercolor, and miniature. The museum has 900 paints conformed with easel paints and wall paints.
You can also see the first communication instruments such as music, television, the first coins and bills, that were in our country. In the Rome Memory and Nation Address, insert such and measures in the word on the sacred, orality, and writing in the construction and transmission of chronology and memory. Among other content, as a central element the Rome. The wall is present of diversity. The Rome allows the museum to present its narration to the public in a more moving and reflective way. Thanks to the Lex multimedia technology, tools, and innovative design and a contemporary montage, it becomes an open space for reflection on its history, inclusive and diversity, so the constructs and contribution to the progress of national reconciliation. The National Museum also caters with the exhibition about our ancestors, as are the indigenous cultures. Their creation on utensils such as the clay pots, as well as their jewelries. These are on the first floor, where everything about the history of the Colombian indigenous people is shown. On the second floor is the history of the colonial period of Colombia. And finally, of the third floor, there are only for Rome's and art, history in relation to modernity and presidents of the country.